Not even when she whispers in my ear. So now that the writery is done, let's see if we can make your other pencil.
Oh, behave.
The reason I came to India for the first time was because of a book. Shantaram, one of the most popular books about India. It's a popular book with backpackers, and for good reason. It's an epic tale of a escaped Australian convict and heroin addict, maybe ex-heroin addict, who moves to the slums in Mumbai and becomes a doctor there while also getting involved in the Indian mafia. And he talks about rats the size of cats that might gnaw your feet down to the bone. He talks about getting attacked by a herd of dogs. He falls in love. He talks about spirituality. There's more good stuff. I definitely recommend reading it if you haven't. And I'll also introduce you to
11
other books about India. If you're planning a trip to India and you want some inspiration like I did, then these books will be perfect for you. Quick break in the video. If you're planning a trip to India, subscribe to my channel, like this video, ask a question in the comments, and I'd be happy to respond and help you have a great trip. All right, book number 1, The God of Small Things. This is the number 1 book because it was my favorite book so far. It is a story about a family in Kerala, and mostly a brother and a sister. And it's about the terrible things that can happen to a family. Also, the writing in this book is so lyrical, and it's a little much. It may not be for everyone. It's like the opposite style of Ernest Hemingway. Great stories are the ones you have heard and want to hear again. The ones you can enter anywhere and inhabit comfortably. They don't deceive you with thrills and trick endings. They don't surprise you with the unforeseen. They are as familiar as the house you live in, or the smell of your lover's skin. You know how they end, yet you listen as though you don't. In the way that although you know that one day you will die, you live as though you won't. In the great stories, you know who lives, who dies, who finds love, who doesn't, and yet you want to know again. That is one of the reasons why this book is so good. This book won the Man Booker Prize, which apparently means it's very good, and those judges agreed with me. And if you're going to read any book before India, I would recommend this one. Okay, book number 2, the Bhagavad Gita, translated by Charles Wilkins. So this is one of the most classic translations of one of the most popular stories that most people know in India. So even if you're not really into spirituality, what I liked about this book is it gave me a sense of the mindset of the people that I'm meeting here. And what it's about this warrior Arjun who is facing this epic battle where he's got his friends and family on his side, and he's facing friends and family on the other side, and he's conflicted. He's like, okay, if I fight, I'm going to kill my friends, and if I don't fight, my friends are going to get killed. What do I do? So the god Krishna starts chilling with them, and they both go out in the chariot in the middle of the field, and they have these conversations, and they go through this thought process. What some people would say this book is about like taking spirituality into action. What are you going to do with your spirituality? Because often India especially is thought of as people who go to a cave to meditate by themselves, and it's about non-action. Whereas the Bhagavad Gita is about how to do that in the world with action. Okay, moving along, let's see what else we got here. We got Untouchable by this guy right here. It's going to take us into the main character who is an untouchable. It was written in 1935. It's about social alienation of this character who has hopes and dreams like anyone else in the world, yet has no hope of actually fulfilling them because he is the urinal cleaner guy. At the end, he goes to a speech by Gandhi And Gandhi at that time in Indian history was against the caste system, making speeches against the caste system. And so he's doing that. This dude climbs up into a tree, hears the story, and is uplifted. Here's an example of how people would talk to untouchables. "Keep to the side of the road, you low caste vermin," he suddenly heard someone shouting at him. "Why don't you call, you swine, and announce your approach? Do you know you have touched me and defiled me, you cockeyed son of a bow-legged scorpion?" They got some good insults here. This is a quick read. It's a good book, and will give you an eye into the caste system, because even though it's not a part of law anymore, in the same way that slavery and race relations in the U.S. still affect the culture and people, it's the same here in India with the caste system. Number 4, we have The Jungle Book. You probably watched the movie, you've seen the shows, you maybe even seen the newer movie with the cool realistic animation. Anyways, Mowgli, raised by a pack of wolves. It's set in central India, and this is a good one to read. I'm not going to go too much into it because you probably know the story, but I would recommend that one. Now let's move along to Gandhi's Autobiography. Book number 5, Midnight's Children. One of the most classic books by an amazing author, Salman Rushdie, who once had death threats against him by the Muslim community for writing a book about... This book tells the story of India through the Midnight's Children, or these kids who were born on the day India became independent, and they can connect with each other in their minds. And the main character, Salim, is the head of the Midnight's Children. He organizes these mind meetings, and they all get together. They all have special powers. And what's cool is it tells that fantastical story through the real events of what India is going through. So if I'm traveling to India like I did, after reading this, I'm like, oh, wow, you know, there's a lot of riots going on where he was, or the partition was terrible. These things that I wasn't aware of or knew factually about, but didn't have the stories that this book presents to you. Who, what am I? My answer: I am the sum total of everything that went before me, of all I have been, seen, done, of everything done to me. I am everyone, everything whose being in the world was affected by mine. I am anything that happens after I've gone, which would not have happened if I had not come. Nor am I particularly exceptional in this matter. Each I, every one of the now 600 million plus of us, contains a similar multitude. I repeat for the last time, to understand me, you'll have to swallow a world. Midnight's Children is also a movie. If you want the short version, you can find that on Amazon and Netflix, I believe. A Fine Balance by this man whose name is difficult to pronounce. So this is set in the 1970s, tells a story of these people who come together through unlikely circumstances. I'm reading it now, so I'm going to recommend it tentatively. It's got some cool quotes so far, such as, "Flirting with madness was one thing. When madness started flirting back, it was time to call the whole thing off." You have to use your failures as stepping stones to success. You have to maintain a fine balance, like this random yet completely awesome fisherman guy, between hope and despair. In the end, it's all a question of balance. The Last Mughal. If you like history, this one's for you. It tells the story of this emperor who is Bahadur Shah Zafar II, was the last Mughal emperor, living in Delhi during the largest uprising of the Indian people against the British. It tells his story. It tells the story of the uprising, the bloody uprising. It is gnarly. If you're traveling India, knowing about that when you're in Delhi or in Agra, it helps put a spin on those places in a different light. This emperor kind of gets the raw deal because he has the uprising or the rebellion who kind of forced him into giving his support, and then he's got the British who ultimately exile him and try him for leading the rebellion. So our next book, another Rudyard Kipling book, Kim. It's about this charismatic young boy living in India who's actually British, and it tells his story as he goes from just being kind of like a homeless guy to moving in with the British, learning about his heritage, and it is okay. It is actually not my favorite book. If you're going to skip a book, this would be the one to skip. Another book you can skip is Nehru's The Discovery of India. Now don't skip this if you love history. I read this and felt like, wow, it goes way back into India's history from the very beginnings, and it walks you through how India became India. According to Nehru, who wrote this from prison, he's got some good quotes about India, so I can save you some trouble and I'll read you some good quotes. Oh, so there's this Greek historian of Alexander's campaign in North India called Arian. He was struck by the lightheartedness of Indians. He says, "No nation is fonder of singing and dancing than the Indian." Nehru was the first prime minister of India, so his perspective, it's a little bit like reading about George Washington. Okay, I just killed a mosquito. Albert Einstein says about this book, gives an understanding of the glorious intellectual and spiritual tradition of a great country. 630 pages. It's long. It's like going to history class. Now, if you're looking for light reading, this is it. Now, this book you're not going to see on other books about India because it's actually about America. But it's written by a popular Indian novelist, and it's a travel book about going to America, written as his dateless diary. It's called My Dateless Diary, which doesn't mean that he's not getting any dates, although it doesn't cover that specifically. But it doesn't have any dates on his diary. So it tells his stories, his observations of America, and it tells about India, though, too. So it gives you an Indian's perspective being in the West. And it's pretty funny. So let's take... I definitely feel man to man, an average American is totally materialistic in the best sense of the term. Work, wages, good wife, and good life are all his main interests, while an Indian will be bothering about the next life also in addition to all of this. He meets a lot of celebrities in America. He meets Aldous Huxley, Cartier-Bresson, Milton Singer, and he's going to these parties, he's meeting editors, he may have a film in Hollywood. And the most interesting person he meets is Greta Garbo. He's having lunch with her, and she asks, why have we been made to suffer, undergo pain? And then what is the meaning of all this? Why? Her voice as she says it is rich and modulated, as if she were speaking the lines in a play. I have to find an answer because evidently she has enough faith in me to think I can give her an answer. I can only view her problem from the point of view of karma and the evolution of a being from birth to birth. She argues with it. The practice of meditation could probably give an answer in a flash. She confesses, I don't know how to meditate. What do you meditate upon? Moving along, we have A Hermit in the Himalayas by Paul Brunton. He was a British philosopher, a mystic, researcher, and an adventurer. He wrote a number of books about India, one about the small city that I live in, and about his spiritual quests and his spiritual seeking and the teachers that he met. In this book, I liked it because it's about a guy who goes to live by himself in the Himalayas. Although by himself in those days, meaning he had like an assistant cooking him meals and being his maid and his butler kind of guy. But his writing is good. This stone house he's living in the beautiful Himalayas, makes me want to go fly up north and hop on a pony and go off for a few days into the Himalayas and have some peace and quiet. The final book to recommend is Man Eaters of Kumaon. I think that's how it's pronounced. Jim Corbett has a national park here. He was once a renowned tiger hunter. And, you know, if you're going to India, people are going to say, India's dangerous, you know, watch out for the thieves, or watch out for the people who are going to scam you, or don't drink the water, or you're going to get sick. Now, back in this guy's day, India was much more dangerous because there were man-eating tigers that would eat hundreds of people, and villagers couldn't go outside, or if they did, they had to have large groups. And there was a chance they could be dragged away in the mouth of a tiger. And so he tells that story of hunting down. He tells 10 stories where he's hunting down these tigers, some of them that have eaten a mosquito, some of them that might have eaten a couple hundred people. And he tells stories of women who are working in the fields, and then one of them is just grabbed and dragged off, and the villagers have to go try to find her and save her, and then kill this tiger. You know, if you're a man who wants to read about the olden days of India, this is a great read. It's exhilarating. If you're planning a trip to India, one thing that's sort of boring, sort of annoying, sort of tedious to research is travel insurance. It's worth looking into, though. I made a video when to not buy travel insurance and when you really should. Check it out in my channel, and that will help you get set up if you're heading to India.